we graduated with someone. He was an accountant, and he got a job. Then about a week later, he was downsized out of that job,
Oh,
and so he was unemployed for about 4 months, and he's just got another job, and it's starting November 15th, I think. Yeah, so it's not the best job market right now, especially for people our age.
in January, when you get in there, how soon until you're comfortable writing pieces of legislation?
I, I, I feel like fairly soon I'll be comfortable. One of the things about when I worked for Bob Rice, he and his legislative aide really took me through those processes and showed me how it works, showed me what to do, and were kind of very helpful in my government education, if you will. To know how that system works, and I think that'll be a great advantage, and I think I'll be able to jump right in.
Okay, and you worked in his office in 2008, 2009, I recall.
Right, because it was when I graduated from high school, which was in the spring of '08. That summer is when I started.
So that's a pretty fast turnaround. 4 years between going there as someone just out of high school.
Yeah, yeah.
How has this felt? Does this feel real to you yet? Or
It felt pretty real last night when the governor called to congratulate me. But I still go through these moments where I'm like, this isn't happening. And I feel like that'll probably keep happening till January, because you're right. It is, it feels like it's been a kind of a roller coaster ride. From I started, it was in '08. I just started getting active in politics. For kind of with the Obama campaign in '08, and then I caught the attention of State Representative Bob Rice, and he said, "Do you want to be an intern this summer?" And then it kind of went from there.
okay, and being someone who turned 22 in May of this year,
Mm.
do you feel people are going to take you seriously when you get to Beacon Hill?
Yeah, I really do. The people that I've talked to, already in the past few days, some of them I knew from before when I was working there. I really do think they will. I think they're open to new ideas. I think they recognize that you do need to include the younger generations. You do need to get them interested because you need to recycle that system. And I think they will be responsive.
Okay. Is there anything older politicians seem to really misunderstand about your generation that you think you'll be able to correct them on or help them out with?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I don't think this just is about older politicians, but a lot of people look at the younger generations and they look at our voter turnouts, which are very shockingly low in most cases, and they draw a lot of conclusions from that. And I'm hoping that one thing I can do, not just locally but in the state house too, is really convince people that young people are invested in the system. They do care about what happens. They're just trying to find out how they fit into that and how they want to relate to it.
Okay. And we were talking about that you just graduated from UMass at Lowell this spring. Um, we spoke earlier about economics. Is that something you feel that you understand to a certain level?
Right, I do. Towards the end of my college career, I started to really get interested in economics, and I started taking several different economics classes. I took a U.S. political history and economics class, which is, you know, economics in America in 1820. So I'm not sure if those same principles still apply, but one of the classes that I took my senior year was all about global trade and the way that countries interact with each other through trade agreements, and the way currencies trade and the way globalization works and global market works and the flow of capital in and out of countries. So I think I do have a grasp of different economic principles and how the economy works in general. And I think more importantly, I have the kind of base knowledge that you need to understand what the real economists are saying about things, and I think that's important.
Okay. What role does the state government have in the Massachusetts economy?
Well, the biggest single impact they have is taxation. Where they tax and how they tax can greatly impact the economy. One of the things that I started saying right when I started my campaign was that I feel this part of the state really needs the sales tax to go back to 5% like it was um, as far back as I can remember. Um, because that's really one way that I've seen a state policy directly impact the local economy. Because when that changed, the kind of backlash was that more people were going to New Hampshire because it was more economical for them. It made it cheaper for them. And I think that we got to go back to the 5%, and that, like I said, that's a perfect example of how state government, state policy affects the economy.
Now, I recall you referring to yourself as an economic moderate.
Mm.
How far in line are you with the typical Democratic Party member, or are there certain areas you stray?
I would say on most economic issues, I am more conservative than your typical Democrat. I, look with less favor on taxation and government spending than the typical Democrat. I look with less favor on welfare programs than your typical Democrat. I wouldn't say that I'm economically conservative, but I would say I'm extremely moderate when it comes to economic issues. Like, for example, I think that we do need those social safety nets that we've had, but I also recognize that there's abuse in the system, and that we need to stop those abuses, and we need to kind of get those programs in check, and stop spending so much money there.
Okay, and I recall that you were opposed to both questions 2 and 3 for both. Question 2 was doctor-assisted suicide. Question 3 was medical marijuana.
Mm.
Tell me more about your views on those issues.
The question 2, the doctor-assisted suicide, I guess I just feel, and I understand where people are coming from who were in favor of the measure. My grandparents, my brother, my family has experienced these times, and you see people who are really at the end and they're suffering, and and you pray that it will end for them. But at the same time, I feel that it's the doctor's job to, fight to the very last minute. And I felt like this measure, at the very least, was sending the wrong message about what our medical community should be doing. And question 3, the medical marijuana part of it, I do think the way that it was crafted, it left itself open to abuse in many ways that previous state action that other states had taken were very much open to abuse. I think in general, nationwide, we need to re-examine our drug policy considering this specific drug, and ask ourselves whether or not it's still worth the money that we spend policing it, arresting people, prosecuting people, incarcerating people over the substance. And I think we need to reanalyze whether or not it's still worth our trouble and the expense. And I think we need to have a serious discussion on a nationwide setting about the future of this policy, because I think also at the end of the day, the federal government has made it clear that their drug policy supersedes state drug policy. We saw it in California and in Oregon when they tried to do legalization programs or medical marijuana programs. So I think it wasn't the right way to go about it, which was mostly why I was opposed to it.
Okay. Consider yourself a social liberal?
Yes. I am in favor of gay marriage. On the abortion question, I would say I'm somewhere between being pro-life and pro-choice, but closer to pro-choice. I guess how I feel about it is I'm it's something I'm not thrilled about, but I also don't think that my own feelings or my own beliefs, I don't think that I can force that on somebody else, especially when it probably will be the most personal and momentous decision of your entire life. So I don't feel like I have the right to come into that decision.
Okay. When you get to Beacon Hill, what are your top priorities?
My top priority is right away in January, I want to start laying the groundwork for what I talked about in my campaign, was starting a business incubator in this district. And the first step with that is getting in touch with, it's run through UMass Dartmouth, the people who kind of organize this throughout the state, and start looking at, well, where can we have it in this district? What are the resources that the state needs to do? What are the resources you can draw from the community? What type of incubator it will be? What types of businesses will be best suited to the area? Those are kind of, that's probably how my first few months will be spent, is trying to get that program off the ground.
Okay. And I remember you said education was awesome?
Yes. I believe very much in public education. I always say the biggest reason that I'm able to do this at my age is because I had great teachers growing up. And I had great professors at UMass. So I'm very much invested and in favor of public education. My mother was a public school teacher. Her sister, my sister, was a certified teacher for a little bit before she went back to law school. So I really do see the value in it, and also being fresh out of the system, I know exactly where there are deficiencies or where there are things that I feel like we need to change to make the system run better and help our students more.
Okay. And is there anything that you haven't mentioned before that you'd really like to change in this state?
Nothing that I haven't mentioned before. I mean, the really the biggest thing that I see that this area needs is the sales tax rollback.
Mm-hmm.
If for nothing else, because I've done the math. The 1.25%, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference to your bottom line, but I think it just shows that the government is listening to the people, and we do care, and we are trying to help these communities. That's really the biggest thing that I hope to change, is get that back down. One of the reasons why people ask, why don't you run for a city position, and I really think the economy isn't just local to the city. It is a regional thing, and that's why I ran for this seat, and that's why I want this office. And I want to stay as long as I can keep making things better here. And right now I really don't have any aspirations to move higher up the chain. State senator or higher than that. I'm happy where I am.
Okay.